When I was able to experience God of War in 2018, I was thrilled with the extraordinary quality of the game. From the gameplay to its fascinating and turbulent story, everything went hand in hand to make God of War 2018 a revolutionary for this well-known franchise. I usually don't feel like playing the same game over and over again for several years. However, 4 times I finished the game completely with the sub-contents and spent about 100 hours in it. To experience the continuation of this title, I would take a moment. When Ragnarok was officially introduced, I felt wonderful. Until last month, I finally managed to experience this expected title. Now, after 52 hours of experiencing this title and perfecting all the original and minor content available and getting all the trophies, I'm going to take the magnifying glass of criticism and put the story of the game, its narrative, and its numerous holes under scrutiny. The God of Thunder, one of the strongest gods of Norse, who has killed hundreds of giants and, as in Terminator, has a history of numerous battles large and small, while surviving thousands of battles and surviving even a few stages of a terrible battle with Kratos, he dies in the moment by plunging a spear in his chest. This moment was one of the most frustrating moments of the whole God of War Ragnarok for me. If you've listened to Mimir's stories in the previous version well, you've probably built an incredibly powerful character in your mind of Thor. A person who is ruthless, powerful and capable and draws everything to the ground. Remember Thamur? The same giants that Thor knocked him down with one shot, and in the previous version we went to his body location to get Chisel. He was a case of hundreds of Thor victims in 9 climates. Thor was literally called a dreaded and powerful monster in the previous version, and God of War Ragnarok shows confirmed that. But the lightning god of Norse mythology was hilariously knocked down by a spear and disappeared for unknown reasons, and there was not even any news of his body. I don't know what the creator's goal was to portray Thor's death in this way, because his killing in this sequence didn't even help pay for Odin's character, and there was no specific narrative goal. There was only one justification: the writers didn't want Kratos to kill him, so they decided to mark his death at the hands of Odin. But the problem is, regardless of the foolishness of the idea, how to implement it is also ridiculous. Kratos invites Thor to peace, and then Odin orders Thor to kill Kratos. He refuses, and Odin, angry at his defiance, sticks his spear in his chest and kills him. Was it Thor who everyone was afraid of him? Was it Thor who destroyed the Jotunars up to the edge of extinction? Make no mistake, I generally don't have a problem with how he died, dipping his chest. The problem is that a powerful character like Thor could have died in a more epic and engaging sequence, not within 2 or 3 seconds. In Norse mythology, Odin is referred to as a cunning god who, more than his physical powers, is his cunning and cleverness that has made him a powerful god. If you've noticed Mimir's stories in the previous version, on many occasions Odin has managed to deceive many giants, gods and ordinary people. He was so deceitful that even Freya ate his deception and taught Vanir spells, followed by Odin using the same magic against Freya herself. But contrary to the promises of the previous version, Odin's show in this version, at least from comment, were very stupid strategic and logical decisions. As you know, Odin had been preparing for years to confront Ragnarok and, as much as he could, gather knowledge and related prophecies. But throughout the game, he became more addicted to Mask than he was concerned about Ragnarok. To the extent that the audience thought that Odin was indifferent to Ragnarok. Thanks to his influence on Kratos' headquarters, he knew all the new events, such as Ragnarok's original prophecy. If he knew so much about Ragnarok, why would he behave completely indifferently and not care about this inevitable? That is, rifts and Mask had completely stripped him of the power of his thinking and the logic of his nose. On the other hand, it is obvious that the idea of Mask and rifts did not exist in the minds of the authors when making the previous version, since Mimir did not mention this in the slightest. The next hole in the story is that in the previous version, Mimir told a different story of how Odin's eye was blinded. The first great fictional hole was where Kratos was preparing to face Heimdall by making Draupnir spears. The point is that Odin knew about this plan and, in general, all the actions of Kratos and his companions, thanks to the coverage in Tyr's stature. The important question is, if Odin knew that Kratos would kill Heimdall, why didn't he take Gjallarhorn's trumpet from him? If Kratos didn't have Gjallarhorn in possession and didn't blow at it, there would have been no other way to get into Asgard. That is, the missing ring of Ragnarok was the horn that Heimdall carried. You probably think that thanks to Heimdall's predictability and mind reading, Odin believed that no one could take him down and take the trumpet from him, but the thing is, Odin knew about Kratos' plan to make spears, and certainly a smart guy like Odin, he didn't pay attention to buts and ifs. If he were truly as clever and deceitful as the Norse myths, he would have taken the trumpet from Heimdall, and then it would not have been possible for Kratos and his army to enter Asgard, even on the assumption that Heimdall would have been killed in all other circumstances for Ragnarok to take place. The other is that the biggest fictional twist and plot twist of the game, Tyr's fakeness, was poorly revealed and performed. First, these kinds of surprises must be implemented in a way that, throughout the game, clues, however small, are included in sequences and dialogues so that when the twisting of a story is revealed, the audience can put together the clues of the past. Think logically, what was Odin's useful output of infiltrating the headquarters of Kratos and his entourage? Yes, it's true to get valuable information, but the funny thing is that it didn't make the slightest use of them. The information he obtained from Kratos' intentions to kill Heimdall did not prompt him to take preventive measures. On the other hand, when he realized that Ragnarok's original prophecy was different from what he knew, he still did not use this information usefully. So what was the purpose of deformation to Tyr? At least Odin could take advantage of the opportunity and harm Kratos and his entourage because they weren't expecting it. Or, for example, he could lock Mystic Gateway using magic, or dozens of other useful things he could do in the form of Tyr coverage. But what did he do in the end? Foolishly revealed his identity, killed Brock and escaped without being able to get the mask. Was it Odin whose hundreds of years of intelligence and deception power had a special and public reputation? Was it the same Odin who deceived Freya and killed Vanaheim? The problem is that the game does not even remain faithful to its own narrative and introduction, and constantly violates the game's characters, actions, behavior and intentions. Another of the most important concepts that the game story refers to is that there is no such thing as destiny, and our sequel is not pre-written. This is confirmed during Kratos' meeting with the Norn sisters. They point out that prophecies are accurate because humans and gods are predictable and have a specific pattern of behavior. This is the reason Kratos was saved at the end of the game, unlike the wall written in the previous version. Kratos changed his behavior and offered Thor peace. According to the game's senior author, if the battle had continued, Kratos would have been killed and that prophecy would have been fulfilled. But since Kratos used peace instead of violence, it somehow changed its destiny. The problem is that, as I said earlier, the game does not take its fictional background seriously at all. We all knew Kratos couldn't die at the end of the game, and somehow none of the characters in the game were so worried. But the point is, did all the events of the previous version also be based on Kratos' behavioral patterns? Were all the giants' prophecy based on vision the only study of the pattern of behavior? If so, then what was the origin of the prophecy? This doesn't make much sense, and the game doesn't make any effort to resolve the ambiguity of the case. The name Ragnarok weighs heavily and embodies a great battle in mind. At least of Ragnarok is referred to as the end of the world in Norse mythology. You must agree with me that the ending of the game, and especially the narrative and going forward in the last third, was very hasty. From going Kratos to Muspelheim, to rounding up armies of 8 realms, everything happened in a fraction of a second. Perhaps it can be said here that Barlaug's decision to finish the story in 2 versions did not make so much sense. Perhaps it would have been better to provide the second version of Ragnarok's preliminaries, and in the last version we would have witnessed a full-fledged epic apocalyptic adventure in the form of Ragnarok. Remember God of War 3? The version that is publicly considered the best version of franchise. One of the reasons for the strength of the game was that in the stature of the third version of the trilogy, it was tasked with finishing, and it did so in an extraordinary way. Again, there is no doubt about the haste of the end and the summation of God of War Ragnarok, leading me to regret the lost potential of the world, setting in the story of the game. As a summation, I briefly address the problems of the game in the fictional section. Odin payment problems, stupid decisions, disregard for Ragnarok and failure to use Tyr cover Thor's death and outcome were extremely disappointing. Hasty ending, strange payment of some minor characters such as Sif. Many important concepts such as the absence of destiny are not properly addressed. What do you think about this? I would be happy to share your disagreements with me.